Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. This webinar is part of our Smart Nation Together series, a series of tech-related talks and workshops by the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office. So today, we're very happy to have with us our friends from General Assembly, Sotirios and Hong, and they'll be sharing a bit more about the fundamentals of digital marketing. So once again, if you have any questions related to marketing, please do feel free to type inside the Q&A box and we'll get to them when we can. For more information about our free webinars, please also do check out the link that I'll be typing in the chat box in a while. So without further ado, let me hand over the time to Hong and she'll do a short intro on the topic for today. Over to you, Hong.
All right, thank you very much. So first and foremost, a huge thank you to the Smart Nation team for inviting us to come back and also, for putting together this great event. So a little bit about myself. My name is Hill and I'm the marketing manager for General Assembly Singapore. So I lead all marketing activities for GA in the Singapore region, but I also do take care of the Australia region at the moment. Right, so I just want to, before we begin, I just want to come in and just share a little bit more about General Assembly. So in case this is your very first time hearing of us, we are a global tech education company and we focus on helping people to reskill and upskill themselves in the most in-demand tech skills. So of course, digital marketing being one of them, but we also do offer courses in coding, data, UX design, and product management. So that's something that you're looking for. We also do have courses in that. So some numbers over here. So we are around 10 years old this year. So we're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year, but we already have more than 30 global campuses all over the world, around 70,000 course alumni. So by course alumni, these are people who have graduated from our full-time and part-time courses, and they have already been pursuing a different career than the one that they started out with. We also have more than 500,000 workshop attendees. So these are people who join us on a weekly basis, just for short workshops. We also do have a lot of community events. So in terms of GA Singapore, we were established in mid-2015. So we are around 5 years old this year. We also do have a lot of course alumni as well as participants who join us on a weekly basis to just learn more about what's happening in tech and how they can break into tech. So in terms of what we offer, as you can see on the screen over there, we focus a lot on career transformation. So for example, if you want to break into a different tech field than the one that you're currently working in, you can potentially consider our full-time courses for that. Everything that we do here are very industry focused. That means that our syllabus as well as our training materials are all been advised by industry experts who will be able to share with us, what the industry is looking for, and we will train you up that way. We of course also offer events and workshops. So in case you haven't know yet, we also do have a lot of short workshops. A lot of them are actually taught by Sotirios over here. So if you like, what you learned today, you can also just check out other workshops if you want to dig deeper into specific aspects of digital marketing. And if you do join us, of course, you'll also be having hopefully a great student experience and exposure to a good global alumni network. So that's a little bit about us. I'm going to drop this email in the chat as well. So if you want to find out more about what are some of the courses, some of the subsidies that are available for our courses, you can contact our admissions team at Singapore_admissions@ga.co or check out our website. Also, a shameless plug to please follow us on our social media platforms. We post our handles over there. So we post about great events and other exciting things that are happening at GA Singapore. And that's all from me. I will now pass over the time to Sotirios, our expert of the day, to walk us through, fundamentals of digital marketing. Over to you, Sotirios.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Hong, for the introduction. And hi, everyone. I hope you're doing great. As you probably already find out, my name is Sotirios, and I always say that my name is a bit odd because I come originally from Greece, but I lived most of my life abroad. So I started working in UK. From UK, I moved to Dubai. From Dubai, I moved to Singapore. And now I'm actually back in Dubai after COVID-19. I have a background in digital marketing. For over a decade, I'm working in the field. I started my career in agencies. So I started in the corporate world, working with Mediacom, PhD, Essence, Avast. All these companies are media agencies. From there, I started teaching with General Assembly. I also contracted with Facebook, that now is called Meta. And nowadays I'm running my own little company that is established in Singapore. So that's a quick background of myself. Before we get started, there are a couple of questions in the chat that maybe we should address before we start today's webinar, right? First of all, the level of today's webinar. This is kind of a beginner webinar. It is going to be relevant to those of you who want to know more about digital marketing and also who want to get started with digital marketing. Why you should be aware of anything that has to do with digital marketing is because this is the future. Not only, let's say, it is going to be the dominant channel for business and marketing in the coming years, but is already very, very important for any business, especially after the pandemic. And there is another question that asks between the similarities or differences between internet marketing and digital marketing. So these terms are interchangeable, right? It's the same thing. Internet marketing, online marketing, digital marketing, you can call it different names, but all these names describe more or less the same disciplines, right? Okay, so without any further ado, let's actually get straight into it, right? So once upon a time, there was no internet, and a lot of you probably remember this time. Like myself, if we are around the same age, you will remember a world where we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have WhatsApp, we didn't have Grab, we didn't have Gojek, we didn't have Instagram, there was no crypto. All of these services that we are now having and they dominate our lives, they basically got invented in the last 10 years. The last decade was really instrumental for everything that is going to happen next in the future of the world, right? At some point around the early 2000s, we had a big bang, and that is what gave birth to all these amazing channels that we are using on a daily basis. And how is this important for marketing? So there is a whole new marketing world that has emerged. So TV is no more actually. So TV became Netflix, became HBO, became Disney Plus, became YouTube, became online video. Radio, if you ask a teenager, when was the last time you listened to radio? I mean, unless you are driving, not a lot of people are listening to radio. And even if you're driving, you are mainly going to use Spotify or online music apps. Print magazines. When I was studying, I used to buy a newspaper every week. I used to buy a couple of magazines maybe every month. After I graduated, the world changed. The only scenario that, at least for myself, I'm going to consume a print publication is if I am stuck in a plane or if I am within a train. I don't think that it's very common nowadays that people buy newspapers and magazines. They consume the same publications online. So everything kind of migrated online. Billboards, they still exist. The problem is that when people are in the MRT or when people are in the cab, they are just holding this device and they are always on their mobile phone. So not entirely sure how many people are actually paying attention to outdoor advertising. They are also replaced primarily by banner ads. Word of mouth is almost entirely social media. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Reddit, Discord, Slack. The entire word of mouth is happening on WhatsApp, Telegram, and all these amazing channels that we have. Pop-up stores, they still exist, but they also became landing pages. Retail stores, of course, they still exist. They will keep existing, but for the let's say a large part of commerce is now happening online. So we have a synergy between online and offline distribution channels, right? So this is the whole new world that has emerged. And just to give you a little bit of maybe some insights on the evolution basically of media, this chart here explains where all the marketing budget is spent in one of the leading markets in the world, which is the US. And you can see that we started in 2006, which is not very far away, with 33% of the budget going to TV and 29% of the budget going to print media. And in probably 15 years, we ended up in a situation where more than 60% of the budget is now being spent online. When I started my career, I used to have 5 to 10% of the overall budget for every media plan that we used to do I was working in the advertising space. When I moved to Singapore, after let's say 7-8 years of me working in the advertising industry, we had 50% of the budget at our disposal to spend in digital channels. So long story short, digital is the new normal. Now, we need to keep in mind that we created a world where everything is on demand. Nowadays, whatever you need, you can find it online in a couple of clicks. You want to hail a cab, you can go to Grab. You want to order food, you go to Deliveroo, Foodpanda. You want to find information, you go to Google. You want to kill time, you go to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You want a freelancer, you go to Fiverr. You want to buy an apartment, rent an apartment, you go propertyguru99.com. You want to go for a holiday, you go booking.com, Airbnb. So everything now is working on on-demand basis. This is the new normal, right? And this means a lot of different things for marketing. So the first thing that is important is that the customer journey starts online. Before people go and shop, even in a physical store, they start their journey on the web, on a mobile app, on Google, on social media. And this is what Google actually baptized as the zero moment of truth. So nowadays you want to buy something. Let's say you want to buy a new mobile phone, or you want to buy new shoes, or you want to buy a laptop. You know everything about the product before you even touch, feel, and see the physical thing. You can find out, for example, how a mobile phone looks like, the specs, the design. You know everything about the product, but you've never seen the product. Like you never actually touched the product, you never seen the product with your own eyes. Everything is virtual. You want to rent an apartment, or you want to buy even an apartment. A lot of people buy even properties without actually going there physically and checking them out, because they see them through video, they know the location, there is Google Earth. So you can find everything about properties, about clothes, about anything that you can imagine online without actually experiencing the product. That's the world that we live in. All these things now wrap up into the new customer journey. This is our playground. So when it comes to marketing, if you want to market your business, or if you are working, let's say, in consultancy or in agencies, you are going to plan around what we call the customer journey. The customer journey has 5 steps. So marketing is not only about awareness, it's not only about sending traffic to websites, it's not only about sales, it's about a lot of different actions that we need to take. The first action that we need to take is we need to be discoverable. Why this is important? Because if you take your mobile phone now and you type restaurants near me, what is going to come up in your screen is not everything that exists, is everything that is discoverable. In other words, maybe there are 100 restaurants around you, but your phone is going to present you with, let's say, 10, 20 options, the ones that can be found online. If you go to Lazada, you go to Amazon, and you type anything, like you are looking for drones, mobile phones, anything you like, you go to Shopee, you are not going to get exposed to everything that exists. You're going to get exposed to the first 20, 30 products that the algorithm is going to bring up. So that's why we say that the first job to be done is to be discoverable online. If we are not discoverable online, even though we exist in principle, we may not exist for the consumer, because the consumer will only be served the top results on Google, the top results on another search engine, the top results on an e-commerce platform, and so forth, the top results on Apple Store, Google Play. The second job that we have to do is, once the consumer has found our existence, then we need to work on our website, work on our mobile app, work on our own channels to convince the user that we are the right choice for them. The third job is we need to close the deal. And we have 2 more jobs to be done that are very important. It is very important to facilitate a positive word of mouth. So how many times, for example, you didn't order from this restaurant because it was a 3.8 and you were like, oh, maybe I'm going to go for a 4.1 or 4.2. How many times you wanted to book an appointment with one provider, but then you read a bad review and you're like, oh, maybe I'm going to find someone else. So reviews are really, really important. Like, And last bit is loyalty. We cannot have any business that is sustainable unless we are able to retain customers. So these are the 5 jobs that we have to do as marketers. Digital marketers, traditional marketers, everything is one nowadays, right? So we want to be discoverable, we want to influence consideration, close the deal, facilitate positive word of mouth, and retain customers. The next question now is, what do we have to play with? What can we do to achieve these objectives, right? And by the way, if you have questions, just keep adding them in the Q&A. We're going to spend quite a bit of time in the end to answer all of them if possible. So what do we have to play with, right? What is the digital marketing landscape? What does it include? It includes 2 types of channels. One we call the pull mediums. So we have certain channels that we use to capitalize on demand. For example, search marketing, Google, search engines, and so forth. Content marketing, affiliate marketing, email marketing. We're going to explain all of these things in more detail in a while. Pull mediums are intent-driven. When someone is typing a phrase on Google, this user is actively looking for a product or service like yours. So we have to actually capitalize on this demand. If I'm consuming content of any type, it means that I have an interest in this content. I'm not going to watch a video on how to apply makeup if I'm not interested in the topic. So by definition, this user is interested in your industry. If I'm browsing booking.com, Skyscanner, I want to book a hotel, I want to book a flight, I'm not going to say I don't have anything to do, let's go to Deliveroo and browse some food. So if I am on an affiliate marketing platform, by definition, I'm looking for a product and service like yours. If I'm going to open your email, by definition, it means that I'm interested in whatever you have to offer. That's why we call them pull mediums. And then we have the push mediums, right? So we have channels like social media, like display banners, like direct outreach, like instant messaging, that are brand building channels. We use these channels to make people aware of our existence. And the difference here is that if I'm browsing Instagram, if I'm browsing TikTok, I may not necessarily be in the mood to buy a new t-shirt, or not necessarily be in the mood to find a new lawyer or find a new accountant, right? So first you have to grab my attention, convince me why I need your product or service. Then I'm going to hopefully come on your website and close the deal. So that's in a nutshell, the 2 different areas that we have to play with. And within all these channels and these 2 different areas, we can play the paid game or we can play the organic game. There are 2 ways to use these channels. You can use them on their paid capacity. You can go and run ads on Facebook. You can go and run ads on TikTok. You can go and run ads on Google. You can literally advertise nowadays in all of these channels. And paid advertising is a short-term activity, is capital heavy, but you're going to get results pretty much immediately. Or you can play the long game. You can actually use all the channels, as we call it, organically. You can post on Instagram, you can post on TikTok, you can create content, and this is a human resource heavy activity. You're going to play the long-term game. So you may not see results, for example, from week number 1, but over time, if you are consistent, you are definitely going to see results. Right? So that's the 2 different ways that we can use these channels. Now, let's give a couple of examples. So let's say search engine marketing, right? What is a paid tactic? We can go and run ads on Google. That's paid search. We can buy links on different websites. We can go on, let's say, Honeycomb Commerce and pay them to be featured in an article. We can provide a commission to a website to send traffic to our website and pay them a sales fee, right? So these are paid activities. How can we use the same channel organically? We can create content that is going to rank on Google. We can basically build partnerships. We can work on our own page SEO. Same example for social media. We can go and run paid social campaigns. We can run lead generation campaigns. We can go and engage in influencer marketing. So these are paid tactics on social media. And then we have organic tactics. We can post stories, videos, reels, we can repost, we can go live. So there are always two different ways to use every channel. We can go the paid way or we can go organically. It really depends on what type of resources and talent you have at your disposal and whether you want to play the long-term game or you want short-term results. If you want short-term results, you are probably need to go with a paid avenue. If you want to play the long-term game, you need to focus on organic growth. Now let's go and explore all these channels a little bit deeper. And we're going to start with the pull mediums, intent-driven channels, search engines, right? So first of all, what are they best for? If there is existing demand for your product, people are already looking for makeup, for accounting services, for co-working spaces. People are already searching for whatever you are offering. Then search engine marketing is a no-brainer. You have to capitalize on this demand. The pros, 100% relevant traffic, probably the highest converting traffic versus other channels. Cons, there is no social context, and it doesn't really work for innovative products. If you have a product that is very innovative, people don't know it, people are not searching for it, search engine marketing is not for you. What are the main search engines? Obviously Google, Bing, and then we have some channels that can be used as a search engine. For example, YouTube, Google Play, the Apple Store, Amazon, or other e-commerce platforms. These are channels that people go and they search for content, they search for products, they search for services like yours. Next, we have content marketing. When do we have to use content marketing? Because a lot of millennials and younger audiences are using ad blockers. They are not really paying attention to advertising anymore. They just want to, let's say, put all this spam aside and they just want to live a life that they control. Content marketing is the remedy to that. So content marketing basically means that we are going to create something that is interesting for people to consume willingly. We are not going to actually advertise and try, let's say, to reach them without them wanting to actually consume this content, right? Pros, 100% relevant traffic because it's intent-driven channel. It is more trustworthy than traditional advertising. So if you create a how-to video versus, let's say, go and advertise on Facebook, the how-to video is going to be considered a lot more trustworthy in the context of what you're doing, right? What are the cons? Obviously, it's very capital heavy activity. It requires new skills. It requires also quite a bit of budget to create content. And it's a long-term activity. It's not going to give you short-term results. If you start creating content today, you're going to harvest the results in probably 3 to 6 months. There are a lot of different ways to create content. Content is not only articles, it's not only videos, it's not only social media. Content is podcasts, content is live streaming, content is events, content is webinars, content is infographics, content is online tools, Mortad's calculator, for example, quizzes, content is guides and white papers. A lot of things are content. Then we have email marketing. So email marketing, it is the type of channel that we can use, whether we are B2C, B2B, any type of company can find value with email marketing. But obviously we can only use it if we have first-party data. We have a database of users that they allowed us to email them, right? It is intimate and personal. We can customize the frequency, and it is a very low-cost activity. That's the pros. The cons is that we need to build a database first. Like there is no company that starts by having a database. We have to collect these emails, right? And the big players like Google's and Apple's of the world, they don't really like this tactic because they don't make any money out of it. So nowadays we have a lot of, let's say, barriers to email marketing, like a lot of emails end up in the spam folder, or there is a promotion tab on Gmail, for example. So sometimes this tactic is not as effective as it used to be, right? There are a lot of different clients. So some people use Gmail, some people use iOS mail, some people use Outlook, Yahoo. And in order to activate email marketing, we will need an email marketing tool. MailChimp, Constant Contact, Klaviyo, MailJet, some of the most popular tools out there, right? Next channel is affiliate marketing. So first we're going to run through all the channels, and then we're going to keep going. and eventually we're going to go into your questions. So keep the questions coming also, because that's the best part of the session every time. Affiliate marketing, if you are into e-commerce, B2B, or a software as a service, that's a tactic you should definitely consider. Why you should definitely consider this tactic? Because it has a direct impact on sales. So if you engage in affiliate marketing, it means that people are going to come and buy on your website, or you are going to get referral leads. The cost per acquisition is much lower comparing to any other advertising channel. What are the cons? Sometimes these people that get referred have low customer lifetime value. They are not the best leads if we are to, let's say, simply go through it, and is not really suitable for long-term brand building as a channel. How can you get started with affiliate marketing? There are affiliate networks. You can play the influencer game. You can engage with content creators, or you can create your own affiliate/referral scheme. So these are the different ways that you can get started with affiliate marketing. And then we have social media. Now let's go to the brand building channels, right? More or less all of us familiar with the space. It is best for long-term brand building, mass awareness at a low cost. If we want to scale fast, social media marketing is great for that. So it can give us mass reach and a lot lower cost comparing to TV or traditional forms of advertising, right? The cons, however, is that the space is getting very fragmented. We used to have only Facebook and Twitter. Now we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, Reddit, and a lot more channels. If I keep thinking, I'll probably come up with another 5, 6 channels. So the space is very cluttered. We have shifting trends. For the longest time, Facebook was the king of social media. Then Instagram kind of took that role. Now TikTok is emerging. People are jumping from one social media platform to the next. It is a constant evolving space, constantly evolving space. So major social media ecosystems, obviously we have Meta, includes Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. Then we have ByteDance, including TikTok and a few other platforms. We have then platforms like Tweets. Gaming is a massive space. We have LinkedIn, of course. We have Twitter. We have YouTube that is becoming a lot more social. So social media are not only about Facebook and Instagram. We have a lot more players actually in the space. And in case you are wondering which one I should be on, we're going to cover that as we go along with today's session. Direct outreach, what does it mean? It means you're going to go on LinkedIn, add people, send them a message and say, this is the brand that I manage, this is what we offer. We feel that you may be interested in that. Do you want to talk? So it is a no-brainer for B2B and software as a service brands. Why it is a no-brainer? Because you can get very targeted reach and the cost is very low. What are the cons? Very hard to scale and it feels quite intrusive. It is basically traditional sales that went online, right? How can you get started? You can get started either using email, you can get started with LinkedIn, you can get started with cold calling, or even, let's say, mailing people in a very traditional and physical way. We have a couple more channels, display and programmatic. This is relevant to banner advertising. So who needs to actually use banner advertising? You are going to use banner advertising when you want to invest in brand building and you want mass reach. It is a great way to reach people at scale. It is not a great way to generate sales. It is not really a great way to generate qualified traffic. But if you want people to remember you, it is a channel that you have to consider, right? How can you get started, or what are the options? You can go with Google Ads, what we call Google Display Network. You can go programmatically, various providers there, depending on the agency that you are using, or you can go with native advertising. For example, when you are reading an article, underneath there are basically other articles that are recommended. Some of them are advertising. This is what we call native advertising. And last but not least, we have instant messaging. WhatsApp, Messenger, Viber, Skype, you name it, right? When are we going to use these channels? If we are into B2B, SaaS products, tech products, it is a good choice. Why it is a good choice? because like email, it is a very intimate channel. We can create our own community. It is very attention grabbing. You cannot really miss, let's say, the notifications if you are part of a group. What are the cons? It is going to be hard to build the initial community, and you cannot really advertise in a traditional digital way. You cannot just spend money and get people to join, let's say, your community. What are the best platforms out there? WhatsApp, Messenger, Telegram, SMS, Line, if you are in Japan, Discord. Again, there are a lot of different channels. There is a lot of diversity there, right? All this conversation, all these channels basically that we can use, all this conversation is very important because digital marketing is not only about Facebook, it's not only about Instagram, it's not only about Google. Yes, Facebook, Instagram, Google, probably the biggest channels out there, very important. But as you can see, there are so many things that we can do. So if you are to keep one thing out of this conversation, remember that digital marketing is not just about 2 or 3 tactics. There are so many different things you need to do. And perhaps you have to think wisely about what really matters for your business and what is the right fit for your business. And that's the next question. So how are we going to choose the right channel for our business? And I'm going to launch a mini poll actually, because I want to maybe get a sense of how you think about choosing the right channel. So how are we going to choose the right channel? Is it based on the target audience, customer journey, business objectives, or all the above? And most of you give what I would say is the right answer. From what I can see, all the above. That's exactly how we're going to choose the right channels. Our decision is a combination of all these factors. Before you start marketing a business, what is very important is to do your homework. I'll tell you why this is important. Let's say you go to a doctor, real life analogy. Imagine you go to the doctor, you open the door, and the doctor says, okay, stay there, you have COVID-19. You would start questioning your choice to go to this doctor. Why? Because how doctors operate is you go there and then they tell you, go and have a PCR, go and have a blood test, go and do an X-ray, give me the results, I'm going to look at the results, then I'll tell you what to do. Same thing with lawyers. You're not going to go to a lawyer and the lawyer will look at you and say, okay, I think you came here for a divorce. It's never going to happen like that. So the lawyer will tell you, tell me about your case, let me study the law, then I'll come back with a solution. Same exact logic should be applied in digital marketing. So first, we need to go and investigate a little bit about the business, the industry landscape, the target audience, obviously. And then we need to define our objectives. We need to collect all this information, have a look at them, and then we're going to say, we need to go Facebook, we need to do this, we need to do that. Right? What do we need to get started with? First, a very simple but important question. Why people buy our product or service? The why people buy is not the obvious. What I mean by that is, people want, let's say, a gym membership, therefore they just come to the gym. That's not the case. Why people go to the gym? Some of them go because they want to be healthy. Some of them go to socialize. Some of them want to become bodybuilders. Some of them want to, let's say, it's something that a doctor told them to do. So if you try to advertise to a bodybuilder, come here and lose weight, or try to advertise to a person who just wants to socialize, come here and become a bodybuilder, is not going to work. So you need to understand why people buy what they buy. You have a course, a master degree. Why people get master degrees? Some people get master degrees because they want to move abroad. That's why I took my master degree. I wasn't really excited with, oh, I want to take this master degree. I just wanted to move in the UK. People maybe from India, they get MBAs because that's a societal norm. You have to have an MBA because the neighbor's daughter has one. So you need to have one also, right? So why people buy? Why people get your software? It's not because they just need an email software. It's because they want to grow their business. Why people get an apartment? Some people get it for investment. Some people get it for their kids. Some people get it to live. You need to really understand what is behind the mindset of people when it comes to why they buy. And that's what you need to sell. So in marketing, we never sell the product. it is a very big mistake to go and say, this is our product now, go and buy it. This is an NFT, go and buy it. This is, let's say, an apartment, go and buy it. This is a watch, go and buy it. You always sell the behind the scenes. You sell emotions, basically, right? That's very, very important to understand from a communication point. How do they buy? If I want to buy property or I want to buy a laptop, how am I going to make a decision? I'm going to make a decision based on location, future investment value, prospects of, I don't know, let's say, how good is the developer who creates this property. If I want to buy a laptop, I'm going to look into features, design, durability, resale value. So you need to understand how people make a decision when they choose a software, when they choose your service, when they choose anything really, because that's the information you need to include in your website. If you are an accounting service, if you are a B2B company, you need to play devil's advocate. If I want to hire an accountant and I go to a website, how am I going to make a decision? Price, trust, maybe, let's say, I'm going to evaluate whether this can be a long-term partnership. Couple of things different for every industry. So that's very, very important for us to do, right? And you need to think about the why and the how across the customer journey. So why people basically buy when it comes to awareness, how do they choose when it comes to consideration, where do they buy when it comes to purchase, do they share their experience or they don't share their experience, and why they stay loyal. That's also another important question. If I tell you today, go and create a different bank account and transfer your salary, or delete Grab or Gojek, whatever you're using, and use a different service, are you going to do it? If the answer is no, what keeps you loyal? Is it the hassle of changing bank? Is it that you have rewards that you don't want to lose? Is it the convenience of using this service and now I know how this app works, so I don't want to actually go and use something else? This question is important not only for creating loyalty for your product, but also understanding how you can win market share. Why someone is staying loyal to their bank, mobile app, email marketing software, accounting firm, and they are not moving. If you tackle that question, it will really help you to win market share, right? So again, it's all about wearing the customer shoes. That's the starting point of our homework. From there, what we need to do is we need to really understand who we are a little bit more. So are we tackling people that are price sensitive, or we are tackling people who are going for, let's say, luxury items? So are we at a Zara, a 7-Eleven? Do we need to play with discounts? Or we are the type of brand that we should never discount? That's very important to understand who we are and where we play. Are we an impulse buy or a need? In other words, how long is the customer journey? Is it the case that we are selling books in the airport and then people pass by, they just look at the titles, they buy 2 books? That's an impulse buy. Is it the case we are selling cars and people take their time, they test drive, they think about the purchase, they discuss it with their family, and then they buy? Who is the decision maker also? If you're buying a new apartment, who is the real decision maker? Not who is actually paying. Who is the real decision maker who is going to define which apartment we're going to buy? So once I had a conversation with a taxi driver in Singapore who happened to be a real estate agent also, and he told me that, you know, when it comes to landed properties, it is always the female that decides. The female, whether it's a wife or let's say a girlfriend, is the catalyst when it comes to whether the sale is going to go through. If the female likes the property, most likely this transaction is going to go through. But if the female doesn't like the property, then maybe the person who wants to buy it is going to have second thoughts. So we need to understand a little bit about our customer journey, right? That's the qualitative analysis. So long story short, what you need to think about is why people buy, how do they buy in every step of the customer journey, and then who are we when it comes to price sensitivity and customer journey. And then we need to do a little bit of quantitative analysis. So quantitative analysis means we want to drill a little bit into understanding our industry. For example, what are the most popular products in our industry? And there are a couple of tools that are going to help us find the answer in this question. So one tool that is super straightforward and it doesn't really need a lot of, let's say, a lot of expertise to use is Google Trends. So I can come here, for example, I can put in, let's say we are into education, I can put in topics like data science, web development, content marketing, and so forth. I'm going to select my location now. For the sake of the example, I'm going to keep it worldwide. Go back, for example, 5 years and have a look at two things. Which area is the most popular in absolute terms? Which area is trending also? What is the seasonality? So you really need to understand, if you are into e-commerce clothing, for example, you need to understand what are the most popular products. Is it dresses? Is it t-shirts? Is it, let's say, something else? If you are into courses, what are the most popular courses? Is it IT? Is it data science? Is it software engineering? Is it UX? If you are into, I don't know, let's say, cryptocurrencies, what are the most popular cryptocurrencies? Is it, let's say, Ethereum? Is it Bitcoin? Is it, let's say, certain type of NFTs, whatever it is, right? So we need to understand what are the most popular product services and also the seasonality. If you are a global brand, where is the demand coming from? Even if you are a local brand, if you think in terms of geography, in Singapore specifically, Singapore has some areas that are very expensive, it has some other areas that are not as expensive. So where does your audience live within the island itself? That's a very important question to decide, that decides basically your media buys and will allow you to be more specific when it comes to marketing. If you are a global brand, if you are to go, let's say, and look into Southeast Asia, where is the highest potential? Is it in Singapore, Malaysia, or certain other countries? If you are an international brand, shall we actually go and start marketing in US, in Australia, right? So trends also will allow you basically to scroll a little bit further down and have a look at where the demand is coming from, right? So it is important to understand a little bit about the location. And a couple more things, competition also, right? So who are the most popular competitors? What is their brand positioning and how do they distribute their products or services? Sometimes I also use Google Trends to assess competition. For example, I can put here Audi, BMW, and let's say Mercedes. And I can find out, for example, for any country, let's say Singapore, which brand is the most popular, which brand is the least popular. So here we had an event with BMW that kind of skewed the trend line, but I think you get the logic, right? So we can see immediately, for example, that when it comes to Singapore, BMW is more popular than Mercedes, and both brands are a little bit more popular than Audi, right? So who are my competitors? And if you want to drill in a little bit further, my suggestion is to also deal with this mini framework. What is their value proposition and what are their unique selling points? Why these top areas are important? Because if everyone says, for example, that we are all about sustainability, and when it comes to unique selling points, if everyone goes out and says we have the best quality, let's say, ingredients, we have the best engineering, then it means that there is no differentiation point. In marketing, it's very important to be different than competition. You need to have a unique selling point that is indeed unique. Very often we see brands that they don't really understand how everyone is positioned, and they just go and they have the same claims with everybody else. Then it becomes a price war. So if you want to justify a higher price, if you want to justify basically users paying more for your service, for your product, you need to have a differentiation point. And in order to find that differentiation point, first you need to understand where your competition is coming from. From there, brand search means which brand is the most popular. This is what this column is about. You may also want to assess the distribution points. So For example, we are competing with 1, 2, 3 other e-commerce players. Some of them are only online. Some of them are online and offline. Some of them are online, offline, and they have pop-up stores. Some of them, they are online, offline, and they have NFTs. So this is what we mean by distribution points. How people are actually selling, how brands are selling their products. And partnerships. Who are they partnering with? Certain brands are partnering with celebrities. Certain brands are partnering with other entities, maybe governments, maybe other organizations. We want to be aware of what our competition is doing, right? So this is our competitive analysis. And last, what are we going to do with all this information, right? So what is the end result? Let's say we're going to spend probably a week collecting all this information. What is the end outcome? The most popular products and services will allow us to set our priorities, even from little details like how our website menu should be structured, to what type of products we need to promote first, and what type of products maybe we need to launch at a later date. The location of the demand, where the demand is coming from, either neighborhood-wise or country-wise, is going to define our geo-targeting. The seasonality, which means whether there is a peak, for example, in Christmas and there is less demand during the summer, is going to decide when we're going to run our tactical campaigns. Obviously, if we are, for example, a product, let me give you an example, like beard oil, which used to be my favorite product, there is a very specific seasonality when it comes to beard oil. Maybe not in Singapore because beards are not popular, but globally, there is higher demand during Christmas because Christmas people buy presents and they buy more of this product. So if I'm selling this item, obviously I need to focus primarily during my tactical campaigns to target the Christmas period, right? Who are the most popular competitors? It will decide our price, and also it will help us to adjust our communication. What are their brand positioning? Differentiate from competition. Again, we're talking communication. And the information on distribution is going to help us to distribute more competitively, or maybe find a better way even to distribute our products and services, right? So that's in a nutshell everything that we have to go through when it comes to analyzing our industry. Then comes our target audience. Who is our target audience? Who is our ideal target audience? There are a couple of questions that we need to ask and a couple of different ways to collect information, right? First of all, we need to understand how big is our audience. And in order to understand how big is our audience, in Singapore, we are lucky because we have an amazing portal, which is called SingStat. And you can come here, you can find any type of information you want for Singapore and Singaporeans and the population living in Singapore, from demographics to, let's say, income and so forth. We can use third-party sources like statista.com. Let me share a couple of these sources basically in the chat. That's where we can also go and find information about our industry. There is an amazing tool that we can use that is part of Facebook. It's called the Facebook Audience Insights. How can we use this tool? If you come here basically and you log in to your Facebook, let me actually go through the bureaucracy. This tool will allow you to find a lot more information about who is your target audience. So let me actually log in and show you how this tool is actually working, right? That's a free tool, by the way. You don't need to pay anything to use it, but you will have to create a Facebook Business Manager, right? So how this tool works is I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to the filter and I'm going to say my audience lives in Singapore. So I'm going to select my location first. The first type of information you see is how big is the size of the audience in Singapore. We're talking about 4.5 to 5.3 million people. And then you can see the demographic distribution. Now, where this tool becomes interesting is you can come here and you can say my audience likes, let's say, Sephora. So you can see here that two things change. Number one, the size of the audience, Number two, the demographic distribution. Now we're talking about 81% women, only 18% men. If I change this interest to something very different, let's say gaming computers, now we're talking about a different audience size, and we are talking completely reverse audience. Now we're talking 88% men, only 11% women, heavily skewed towards millennial and younger audiences. So this is an amazing tool that you can use to understand a little bit more about who are these people that you are targeting. Snapchat also has an equivalent. It's called Snapchat Insight. Right? From there, what else can help us to find information? There is an amazing tool that is called SparkToro. I'm not affiliated with it, but I really like it a lot because it can give us information on, let's say I'm going to come here and say my audience talks about, let's say, drones or speaks about coffee, and my audience is located in, let's say, Singapore, right? The tool is going to give me information on what are the websites that my audience is viewing, what are the podcasts that they are listening to, what type of things they are posting on their social media, and so forth. It's a freemium tool, so you can use it for free, but eventually it has a paid subscription, right? Just as a disclaimer. Or you can go with good old research. You're going to buy coffee to 5 people, sit down with them and ask them questions. Tell me why you buy this product. Tell me how you go about buying this product. You can do the same type of research using Google Forms, for example, online, and you can streamline your research, right? So you need to collect all the information first. What comes next before we go to your questions that are going to be probably a lot more interesting than my presentation, right? Next comes objectives. So we need to set objectives, and here the key is that we need to quantify our objectives. Raise brand awareness is not an objective, because I have another poll basically that I can give you, right? If I tell you my objective is to raise brand awareness, what does awareness mean to you? So help me actually find out, what does awareness mean? Is it reach? I'm going to reach as many people as possible. Is it social media followers? Is it people who love the brand? Is it website traffic? Is it a combination of all the above? Or is it something else? If it's something else, what is it? Maybe you can type in the chat. If it's all the above, what is the most important metric? That's also another question. And why this question is very interesting, because if I say we want to raise brand awareness and my boss says, I agree. And when I think brand awareness, I think reach, but my boss thinks social media followers, we're not aligned. That's one challenge. The second challenge is, if I tell you we want to raise brand awareness, meaning we need website traffic, or I tell you we want to raise brand awareness, meaning we need more followers, is it the case that you're going to use the same channels and the same tactics? The answer is no. There is a different strategy to increase social media followers. There is a different strategy to increase website traffic. There is a different strategy to reach as many people as possible. You can actually run display ads and you can reach as many people as possible, but this is not going to give you followers. You can invest in social media content and this will give you followers, but it's not going to give you a lot of website traffic. You can buy ads and send people straight to your website, and that will give you traffic, but it's not going to give you followers and perhaps not the reach that you are expecting. So why this conversation is important is because we always need to quantify. We need to quantify what we mean by awareness. Every single metric has a different strategy. The strategy is not something that comes first and then we say, okay, now that we decided which channels we're going to go with, let's find a way to measure their effectiveness. It's the other way around. First, you need to understand what is important for you, then you need to create a strategy to achieve it, right? That's very important also if you are to remember a few things out of today's webinar. Consideration, what indicates purchase intent? You need a definition of what we call a quality visitor. So when someone lands on your website, let's say you own this website, somebody lands on the website, what do you want them to do? You want them to buy, that's great. What is the first step that I need to take to buy something? I need to visit the product. That's a good metric to consider when it comes to consideration. Airbnb. I come here. What do you want the user to do? You want the user to book, let's say, a stay. That's great. What do I need to do first? I need to look for a destination and check at least one listing. This is a good metric to measure how many times people actually review listings. UR99.com or property website. What do you want people to do when they come on your website? That's a very important question that you need to answer, right? And although it's very simple, sometimes I encounter SMEs, for example, or startups that they don't really have absolute clarity on what they want people to do when they come on the website. You need to really narrow down to what is the action that is important for you. That becomes your metric. Obviously, when it comes to purchase, what is the main business outcome? It's always revenue. How does this revenue going to be generated, either through leads or through transactions? And then loyalty. We can quantify loyalty. How many 5-star ratings we got last month versus this month? How many testimonials we got last month versus this month? How many repeat transactions we got during, let's say, the first 6 months of the year versus same period last year? How many people canceled, churn rate as we call it, how many people stayed with our subscription? That's how we measure loyalty. And the last bit is how we bring everything together. So let's say now we know a little bit about the customer journey, we know a little bit about the landscape, the different channels and tactics we have to play with. We know, I hope, a lot about our business, industry, competition, and target audience. Let's now, after we set up our objectives, go and plan a digital strategy. There are a lot of ways to do that. I typically use this framework because it's very simple, especially for beginners. So we have the 5 steps of the customer journey: awareness, consideration, purchase, post-purchase, loyalty. And then we have 2 different ways to play. Either we're going to play organically or we're going to rely on paid media. And we need to come in here and decide what are we going to invest in. I'll give you a couple of examples before we jump into your questions, right? So what can we do organically for awareness? We can invest in SEO. We can invest in social content. That's 2 strategies, for example, that they are really good for awareness that do not really require media budget. What can we do with paid? A lot of things. Ads, more or less in any platform that you can think about. That's the easiest box probably to tackle, right? What can we do with consideration? When people click and come on our website, I need to take care of my UX. I need to take care of my comms. I need to take care of what we call my funnel. When people are 1 step from buying, what do I need to do? I need to create some sort of sense of urgency. If you buy now, you get 20% off. There is only 1 room left. There are only 2 tickets available. There are limited seats in this flight. We need to remove risk. There is a money back guarantee. If this clothing doesn't fit you, we have free returns. You need to make people feel at ease. What do we need to do for post-purchase, right? So we need to play a lot with email marketing. What do we need to do with loyalty? Again, through email marketing, we need to find a way to facilitate reviews or testimonials. Maybe we need to create a referral scheme, right? So there are a lot of things we can do organically. And there are a lot of things we can do when it comes to paid media. Yes, we can advertise, but we have a different types of advertising and different tactics. So I'm going to advertise to a broad audience here, but then when people actually come to my website and leave, I'm going to remarket to them here. Or I'm going to advertise in different channels. There are a lot of considerations that we have, right? Typical questions that come up at this stage: do we need to complete the full table? Is it mandatory to, let's say, cover the entire customer journey? It is not mandatory, but eventually this is where you want to go. There are two types of business, right? So you need to think about the business life cycle. Your business life cycle, basically, if this is time and this is dollars, every business basically starts small as a startup, then it evolves, it matures, and it declines. What this means is that when we are in the growth phase, we need to be a lot more focused on what we call the acquisition phase. The acquisition phase is awareness, consideration, purchase. So as we are growing, basically, as a startup, we need to be a lot more skewed towards the growing phase. But when we start maturing, and if we want to balance things out and start becoming a profitable business, we need to start thinking a lot about retention also. Because if you want to have a profitable business, you can't be a profitable business without retaining customers. And when companies decline, they are a lot more focused on retention, or they are a lot more focused on maybe acquisitions and mergers, like Facebook does, for example. They buy Instagram, they buy WhatsApp, they come up with new products. That's more or less how the game is played, right? This framework is also important because another way to use it is think about your business, look at this framework and write down every single activity that you're doing right now. What I see very often is a lot of companies are super heavy here and they are not really playing anywhere else. The whole strategy, if we are to call it like that, is we run ads, we send them on the site, and that's it. And then they look at this framework, they look at how empty it is, and they're like, oh, we are actually missing out on a lot of things. Starting, I would say, with your own assets, right? Starting with especially what happens after people land on your website, which is very, very important. So that's how we take all this information and we create a top-level digital strategy to begin our journey. Okay, so one more thing, and then I'm jumping straight into your questions. And we have a lot of time, so it's going to be a very interesting conversation. This is what we call the always-on strategy, meaning this is what you're going to do day in, day out. From there, we have also tactical campaigns. There is Valentine's Day, National Day, Mother's Day, New Year. It is your chance to do something special. It is your chance to do something creative. What you need to do is you need to identify those key dates, mark them in the calendar, and then brainstorm tactical ideas. And that's your ad hoc marketing campaigns. So in digital marketing and in marketing in general, there is a strategy that is basically always on, is what we do every single day. Marketing never stops. And there are tactical campaigns that are aligned with all the different days that are important for us.